I never thought I'd burn a Fortune 500 company to the ground from my laptop in a beachside Airbnb. But that's exactly what I did on day 3 of what was supposed to be my first real vacation in 7 years. The email from HR hit my inbox at 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time, firing me effective immediately for insubordination, while I was half drunk on piña coladas, staring at the Gulf of Mexico waves crashing like they were applauding my impending apocalypse. And the kicker? They had no idea the golden parachute I'd buried in my contract 7 years ago was laced with enough C4 to level their entire executive suite. It started with a whisper in the break room. The kind of corporate gossip that slithers through cubicle farms like smoke from a back alley cigar. Harper's taking 2 weeks off. In July? Who does she think she is? The CEO's mistress? I overheard it from behind the Keurig, steam curling up like devil horns from my black coffee. But I wasn't the CEO's anything, just Harper Klein, Senior VP of Operations at Apex Dynamics. The kind of mid-level exec who kept the gears greased so the suits upstairs could golf at Pebble Beach without the factory lines seizing up. I'd earned that vacation. 7 years of 80-hour weeks, putting out fires in 3 time zones, and covering for every Golden Boys fuck-up like it was my personal crusade. My team called me the fixer, half in awe, half in pity. Little did they know, I was fixing to fix them all. The betrayal wasn't a single knife in the back, it was a slow poison, dripped into my veins over coffee meetings and performance reviews. It began with Marcus Hale, my mentor-turned-monster, the Silver Fox CFO who'd handpicked me out of Wharton like I was his prized thoroughbred. Harper, kid, you've got the killer instinct, he'd say, clapping my shoulder in boardrooms that smelled of leather and lies. He was the one who pushed me into the shadows, making me the fall guy for his pet project, a supply chain overhaul that was supposed to save Apex millions, but instead hemorrhaged cash like a gut-shot hog. When the auditors came sniffing, Marcus pinned it all on me. Falsified reports, inflated projections, the works. I took the heat because he promised it'd be temporary. Just a blip. Harper, I'll pull you out before the shit hits the fan. Trust me. Trust him? I did. Like a fool in a 3-piece suit. I rewrote the ledgers myself, buried the discrepancies under layers of Excel voodoo, all while he schmoozed investors at Davos, sipping single malt lies. By year 5, the whispers had turned to shouts. SEC inquiries loomed like storm clouds over Midtown Manhattan, and Marcus started flipping faces faster than a Vegas blackjack dealer. One day, he'd be my confidant, leaking boardroom dirt over late-night takeout tie. The next, he'd be in closed-door sessions with HR, painting me as the rogue element. Harper's always been ambitious, he'd say with that crocodile smile, his eyes darting like he was casing the joint for his escape. And then came Elena Voss, the HR shark with teeth filed to points, a woman who'd clawed her way up from paralegal to gatekeeper of the guillotine. She was Marcus's new favorite, the one he'd groomed to replace me once the purge was complete. Elena, with her power bob and pantsuits that screamed, "I eat underperformers for breakfast," started compiling my dossier, emails cherry-picked out of context, performance metrics twisted like pretzels. But the real sin? She knew about the affair. Not mine, oh no. That would be too straightforward. Marcus's dirty little secret with the intern from accounting, a wide-eyed Columbia kid named Riley who'd vanished after signing an NDA thicker than her thigh. Elena covered it up, shredded the complaints, all while nodding along to Marcus's gospel of plausible deniability. I found out on a Tuesday, buried in a forgotten HR folder I'd hacked into during a late-night audit of my own. Password was Hale Rules 69, subtle as a sledgehammer. There it was, Riley's tear-stained resignation letter. Dated 6 months after I'd started covering Marcus's ass on the supply chain debacle. She'd accused him of coercion, of promises whispered in hotel suites overlooking Central Park. And Elena? She'd stamped it confidential, resolved. Resolve my ass. They'd paid her off with a severance that could have bought a brownstone in Brooklyn. Shipped her to a consulting gig in Seattle. And poof, gone. I gagged on my vending machine latte, the betrayal coiling in my gut like barbed wire. I'd borne the weight of Marcus's crimes, the falsified docs that could have landed me in federal pound-me-in-ass prison, while he played house with fresh meat and Elena played cleanup crew. For what? Loyalty? In America, loyalty's just a synonym for leverage. And I'd been played like a fiddle in a hoedown from hell. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced my one-bedroom in Chelsea, the city humming outside like it was mocking me, taxis honking, sirens wailing, the endless grind of the Empire State Building's lights flickering like a faulty conscience. By dawn, I'd drafted my escape hatch, the exit clause, buried in the fine print of my employment contract. A relic from my first week when Apex was still a scrappy upstart desperate for talent. It was a standard non-compete boilerplate, but I'd slipped in a devil's bargain during negotiations, courtesy of a shark lawyer uncle who taught me that every deal's a dagger waiting to twist. The clause read, in the event of termination without cause, employees shall receive equity vesting acceleration equivalent to 5% of company valuation at time of exit, payable in cash within 90 days. Harmless on paper, right? Except Apex had ballooned from a $200 million startup to a $12 billion behemoth on the NYSE. And that 5%? It was a nuclear option. I'd never intended to pull the trigger. Hell, I loved the job once. Back when it felt like building something instead of babysitting egos.
But now?
Now it was my Excalibur. Vacation was my last gasp. A desperate bid to unplug before the noose tightened. I'd booked the Airbnb in Pensacola sight unseen. A clapboard cottage with creaky porches and seashell wind chimes that sounded like wind-up toys from my childhood. 2 weeks. No emails. I told my assistant, packing my laptop like a dirty secret. The first 2 days were bliss, sunburns and IPAs. Novels dog-eared on the dock. The salt air scrubbing away the subway grime from my soul. But on day 3, the poison leaked in, a 6 a.m. Slack ping from Elena. Harper, urgent ops review. Need your input on Q3 projections by end of day. Working from home. Home, I was barefoot in board shorts, toes buried in sugar sand. On vacation, I typed back, crisp as a fresh dollar bill. Handle it. Crickets. Then the flood. Voicemails from Marcus. Passive-aggressive emails from the C-suite. A group text chain devolving into passive-aggressive emojis. By noon, Elena escalated. This is a core function. Refusal to engage constitutes breach. Breach? I laughed into the ocean breeze. The kind of bitter bark that scares seagulls. Breach was them screwing the intern while I laundered their ledgers. I ignored them all, diving into the waves like baptism by salt water. That night, over grilled shrimp and a bottle of cheap rose, I felt the first crack in the dam, the freedom of not caring, the intoxicating buzz of fuck it. But dawn brought the hammer, the termination email, CC'd to the entire exec team, with a PDF attachment titled Separation Agreement, Sign or Face Litigation. The language was pure legalese venom, gross misconduct. Willful neglect of duties. Immediate cessation of all access. They'd frozen my 401k, yanked my badge, and oh yeah, slapped a cause termination to void any severance. Cause? For sipping margaritas instead of dialing in from a beach towel? In corporate America, vacation's a privilege, not a right. And I just painted a target on my back the size of Texas. Rage hit like a rogue wave. Cold and churning. I didn't cry, I plotted. Back in the cottage, laptop open to the hum of cicadas, I dusted off the contract. There it was. Clause 17b. Black and white as a priest's collar. Termination without cause? Check. They tried to cloak it in insubordination, but the refusal to work off hours on PTO was ironclad protected under New York labor law. I'd lawyered that in.
2.
A nod to the ghost of my union organizing grandma from the Detroit auto plants. Uncle Ray had chuckled when he inked it. It's a Trojan horse. Harp. They won't see it coming till the Greeks are raping and pillaging.
Now.
The Greeks were me. I fired off the response at 3:47 a.m., my fingers flying like they were possessed by the ghost of every underpaid drone who'd ever clocked out bitter. Accepted. See attached for vesting calculations. The PDF was a masterpiece, 50 pages of spreadsheets, legal citations, and a demand letter that read like a declaration of war. 5% of Apex's market cap, $600 million. Wired to my Cayman account within 90 days. Or I'd sue for treble damages plus attorney's fees. I CC'd the board, the SEC tip line, and, petty as it sounds, Marcus's wife, whose Hamptons Wine Club email I'd borrowed from the holiday roster.
Sleep? Nah.
I chugged a Red Bull and watched the sun rise over the Gulf. Pink and guilty as a cheating spouse. By breakfast, oatmeal laced with spite, the replies trickled in like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Marcus first. Harper. What the hell is this?
Call me.
We can talk.
Talk?
Like the talks where he'd sworn on his kids' soccer trophies that I'd never take the fall? Then Elena. All caps and exclamation points. This is extortion. You're fired for cause. Lawyers incoming. Extortion? Honey. In America, extortion's just negotiation with teeth. I screenshotted everything, forwarding to my attorney, a pitbull named Sal from the Bronx who'd once bankrupted a mobbed-up construction firm over a parking spot dispute. Pull the trigger, I texted him. All of it. The next 48 hours blurred into a fever dream of legal chess. Apex's counsel, a white shoe firm from Wall Street that charged by the yacht, tried to bury me in motions, temporary restraining orders, defamation countersuits, even a whisper of criminal fraud tied to the old supply chain mess. But Sal was a street fighter. He countered with discovery demands that ripped open their guts. Subpoenas for Elena's emails, Marcus's travel receipts, Riley's redacted file. The press got wind. Leaks are cheaper than therapy in this town, and suddenly, the New York Post was splashing headlines. Apex XX beachside bitch out. Fired VP demands $500 million payout. Comment sections lit up like Black Friday sales. Good for her. Corporations are soul suckers. Versus entitled millennial snowflake ruining American business. I scrolled them from a dive bar in Pensacola, nursing a whiskey neat, the kind that burns going down like unfinished business. Back home, or what was left of it, Apex imploded like a house of cards in a hurricane. Stock dipped 8% on the open. Analysts on CNBC clucking about internal governance failures. Marcus called a press conference from the HQ lobby. All furrowed brows and scripted sorrow. We're disappointed in MS. Klein's actions. But Apex remains committed to transparency and accountability. Transparency? The man who deep-sixed an intern's rape allegation was lecturing on accountability. I almost choked on my conch fritters.
I know.
Meanwhile, went radio silent, Rumor had it she was lawyering up separately, her own skeletons rattling in the closet. And Riley? I tracked her down via LinkedIn, now a barista/blogger in Portland, posting about healing crystals and corporate trauma. One anonymous Venmo later, $10K. No strings she spilled to a podcaster. It wasn't just harassment. They made Harper the scapegoat to cover the whole rotten core. The revenge wasn't just financial, it was surgical, a scalpel to the jugular. I timed the leaks like a maestro, first the contract clause to Bloomberg, framing it as a wake-up call for work-life balance in toxic cultures. Then the supply chain fraud to ProPublica, anonymized but damning, emails showing Marcus directing the cook-the-books orders. My replies twisted into enthusiastic compliance. The SEC pounced like wolves on a lame deer, freezing Apex's filings pending investigation. Board members bailed. 2 resigned by Friday, citing irreconcilable differences. And Marcus?
Oh.
Marcus unraveled live on camera, his presser devolving into a stammering mess when a reporter blindsided him with Riley's name.
We.
That's not relevant, he sputtered, sweat beading like dew on a coffin nail. By evening, Marcus Me Too trended nationwide. Karens in wine moms groups debating if he was a predator or just a flawed leader in a high-pressure environment. I flew back to New York on Southwest, ironic. The budget airline for the freshly unhinged, landing at LaGuardia amid a media circus. Paparazzi swarmed the baggage claim, flashes popping like gunfire in a Tarantino flick. Harper, was it worth it? Destroying 5,000 jobs for your grudge. A mic-thrusting vulture from Fox Business. I paused, suitcase, wheels clicking like a metronome of doom, and leaned in. Jobs? Those folks were cannon fodder for Marcus's ego. I just lit the fuse they handed me. Viral in 10 minutes. Dissected on every cable news panel from Rachel Maddow to Tucker Carlson's ghost. Liberals hailed me as a whistleblower warrior. Conservatives branded me a vengeful harpy tanking the economy. Split the nation right down the middle, like everything else in this godforsaken country. But the real storm brewed in the shadows. Elena reached out via burner email, coward's move, from a VPN in Bermuda. We need to talk. Off record. You don't know the half of it. The half. Try the whole damn iceberg. We met in a dive off Times Square. The kind of joint where the jukebox plays Springsteen unironically and the bartenders don't ask for last names. She slid into the booth, looking like death warmed over. No power bob. Just stringy hair and a hoodie that screamed fugitive chic. Marcus played us both. Harper, she whispered over flat beers. The intern? That was the tip. He was skimming offshore accounts. Fake vendors. I covered because
He had dirt on me.
my brother, the junkie, OD'd on Apex script. Feds were closing in. Marcus buried it for a favor. Her eyes, red-rimmed and raw, pleaded for absolution. Betrayal on betrayal. A Russian doll of deceit. She'd pinned the supply chain on me to protect her own flank.
But now
She was flipping, offering a thumb drive of Marcus's slush fund ledgers. Take him down. But spare the company. People like us, we're just survivors.
Survivors?
In America, survival's a blood sport, and I'd already drawn first blood. I pocketed the drive. But trust? That ship had sailed to Davy Jones' locker. As we parted, her vanishing into the neon night, I felt the twist of the knife. Was I the hero? Or just another schemer in the Coliseum? The drive's files confirmed it all. Marcus's came in wires, totaling $18 million siphoned from the very overhaul I'd tanked my rep to hide. But they're buried in metadata. was my own ghost, timestamps on my approvals. Irrefutable proof I'd signed off knowing the risks. Accomplice? Or coerced pawn? The line blurred like cheap vodka. The climax hit on a sweltering August afternoon. The kind where Manhattan asphalt shimmers like a mirage of regret. Apex's boardroom, glass walls overlooking the Hudson, now cracked from a mysterious protester's rock, hosted the showdown.
いいでしょう。
They countersued, and the settlement conference was judge-mandated theater. Me.
Sal.
Elena's counsel, she'd cut a side deal for immunity. And Marcus, flanked by a phalanx of suits that cost more than my old apartment. The air reeked of stale coffee and desperation. The table a battlefield of legal pads and whispered asides. Judge Harlan, a grizzled ex-prosecutor with a Brooklyn drawl, presided like a hungover Zeus. Settle, or I'll let the jury decide. And folks, juries love a good villain. Marcus opened, his voice a gravelly plea wrapped in paternal bullshit. Harper, this is family. We've built something here. Let's not throw it away over misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? Like the $600 bill I was owed. Or the intern he'd gaslit into silence. I leaned forward, the thumb drive burning a hole in my briefcase. Family? You mean the kind where the dad molests the babysitter and makes the mom take the blame? Gasps rippled. Elena's lawyer choked on his water. Sal smirked like the cat that ate the canary. Marcus's face drained to the color of bad milk. His flip-flopping on full display, from denial, slanderous lies, to bargaining, name your price, off books. But I wasn't there for cash anymore. This was catharsis. The kind that leaves scars but salves the soul. Elena cracked next. Her testimony a confessional torrent once immunity shielded her. He orchestrated it all, she admitted, voice trembling like a leaf in a nor'easter. The supply chain fraud? Harper fixed it under duress.
The intern?
I buried it because Marcus threatened my family. The room tilted. Reporters outside the door scribbled furiously through the one-way glass. Marcus lunged, verbally at first. You bitch. You were in it up to your neck. Then physical. A shoved chair that toppled like dominoes of doom. Security swarmed, but not before his mask shattered completely, sobbing. Blubbering about pressures of leadership, the ultimate American excuse for being a monster in a Brooks Brothers suit. The judge called recess, but the die was cast. By evening, Apex filed Chapter 11. The payout triggered by the without cause ruling, my claws held, ironclad as the Statue of Liberty's torch. $600 million wired at midnight. Enough to fund a dozen NGOs for whistleblowers or, hell, buy a private island and never hear Synergy again. Marcus? Indicted by week's end. Wire fraud. Obstruction. The works. Elena walked with probation and a book deal. Riley got her justice via a civil suit that made headlines from coast to coast. And me, Harper Klein, the fixer turned wrecker, splashed across Vanity Fair as the woman who toppled an empire. But here's the twist that keeps therapists in business. 6 months later, as I sipped espresso in a Soho cafe, new life, new hair, new everything, a package arrived. No return address. Just a manila envelope thick as guilt. Inside, photocopies of my own emails. The ones authorizing the ledger tweaks. Timestamped with my home IP. A note in Marcus's scrawl. We both knew the risks. Harp. Partners in crime? Or was it all just survival? Enjoy the beach. My stomach dropped like the Dow in '08. He'd planted it, backdoored my laptop during one of our mentorship sessions, framing me as the architect. The feds could still come knocking, statute of limitations be damned in the age of endless audits. I burned it in the cafe's outdoor ashtray, watching the flames curl like question marks. Was I the avenger? Or the villain who danced too close to the fire? The payout bought freedom. Sure, donations to anti-harassment orgs, a foundation for burned-out execs, but the mirror showed a woman with eyes like storm clouds, debating if the revenge tasted like victory or ash. America loves its underdog tales. But this one, its split souls. Was I a feminist icon dismantling patriarchal BS? Or a ruthless opportunist who tanked livelihoods for personal vendetta? Forums raged, Reddit threads with 10K upvotes, Twitter wars that birthed memes of me as a cocktail-sipping Medusa. Some cheered the chaos. Finally, someone made the suits pay. Others mourned the fallout. 5,000 families ruined because one chick wouldn't check email. In the end, it's tragic. I guess happy for me. In the hollow way that yachts and therapy sessions can buy. I bought that Pensacola cottage outright, renamed it Claus House, and host retreats for jaded professionals. Reclaim your PTO or die trying. Marcus rots in Otisville, writing letters I never read.
Elena?
Last I heard, she's podcasting from anonymity. Confessions of a corporate enabler. And Riley? She thanked me once. Over Zoom, eyes clear, voice steady. You didn't just burn it down. You lit the way out.
Me?
I walk the beach at dawn. Waves whispering secrets to the sand. Revenge isn't a straight line. It's a Mobius strip, twisting back on itself until hero and heel blur into one. But damn if it doesn't feel good to pull the pin. Watch the world bloom in orange and regret. In the land of the free, we're all just one bad vacation away from the inferno.